Welcome to the Test Security Guidelines for CAASPP and ELPAC video for test administrators and test examiners, sponsored by the California Department of Education. Before you get ready to administer an assessment, let's refresh our knowledge of test security guidelines for CAASPP and ELPAC. This video will include general and specific test security guidelines for administering the computer-based CAASPP and ELPAC, common testing scenarios, and non-reportable incidents during and after test administration. By the end of this video, you will understand test security guidelines and procedures for the computer-based CAASPP and ELPAC. The CAASPP or ELPAC Test Security Agreement and Test Security Affidavit must be read and signed annually to ensure the security of assessments. All persons with access to the Test Operations Management System, or TOMS, must electronically sign the Test Security Affidavit upon first logging on to TOMS. Once you sign the Test Security Affidavit, you can print it out for your own records. Only LEA coordinators and site coordinators are required to sign the Test Security Agreement. Additionally, the CDE offers a sample interim assessment test security agreement. It can also be modified for local use and is not required by the state. General test security guidelines apply to all initial, interim, and summative assessments in both computer-based assessment and paper-pencil test formats. The purpose of a secure test environment is to maintain test security and provide a stable testing experience for students. The security of test materials and the confidentiality of student information is vital to maintaining the validity, reliability, and fairness of test results. For in-person computer-based summative CAASPP and ELPAC testing, please be sure that there is adequate space between students. You can use dividers and seat students far enough apart so they are not able to view each other's screens. If an accommodation, such as the non-embedded word completion, is allowed through the secure browser via permissive mode, you must monitor students to ensure that they are adhering to all test security guidelines. Let's start with the Smarter Balance for English Language Arts and Literacy, or ELA, and Mathematics, California Science Test, or CAST, and ELPAC Interim Assessments. Interim assessment materials are available year-round to all California public kindergarten through grade 12 educators and non-public, non-sectarian school educators who provide instruction to California public school students. It is important to note that interim assessments can be administered as standardized or non-standardized assessments. The interim assessment for a student should be marked standardized only if a valid interpretation of results can be made. The interim assessments are intended to be student and teacher-facing only. They are not for public use, display, or distribution. Interim assessment items must not be posted or copied into third-party systems or sent home for homework. Any use, display, or distribution of interim assessment items that results in access to persons beyond LEA staff and students compromises test security and violates copyright. Interim assessment security compromises are not reported through the Security and Test Administration Incident Reporting System, or STARS, but they should be reported to the site coordinator. Now let's cover more specific security guidelines that apply only to computer-based initial and summative assessments. When testing starts, each student should have a logon ticket with their first name and statewide student identifier, which is also known as an SSID. You may also include a photo of the student or their last name with the logon information as an additional safeguard to ensure that each student receives the correct logon information. Make sure that the student cannot access external websites or resources unless allowed because of the use of an accessibility resource that needs to use permissive mode. Student logon information is considered secure material, so it should be given to and be viewable only by the student to whom the information belongs. Logon information must be securely destroyed after testing has been completed. Losing student logon information is not a reportable incident, although it is considered a breach of personally identifiable student information. Any incident involving lost logon information should be handled at the local level. Make sure you report any testing incidents or security compromises to your test site coordinator. It is the LEA coordinator's or site coordinator's responsibility to use the STARS process to formally report testing incidents, if applicable. Your site coordinator should provide test security procedure training for all staff who have access to secure materials. Examples and definitions of security incidents can be found in the Security Incidents and Appeals Procedure Guide, which can be accessed through the Manuals Library webpage and the Test Security webpage on the CAASPP and ELPAC website. To prevent these test security incidents, we will go over some general and specific guidelines for test security. Now let's go over a common scenario that happens during testing. Students often report that the test delivery system has skipped questions. If the student perceives that the assessment has skipped an item, this does not need to be reported as a test security incident. For assessments with a pause rule, students cannot progress to another page or set of items unless they have responded to all items within that page or set. After a pause greater than 20 minutes, the system is designed to place the student on the first unanswered item. Cases have been observed where, prior to a pause, a student navigates back to a previous item and deletes the answer. When the assessment is resumed, it will return the student to this previously responded to item that is now blank. When the student answers that item and selects Next, the student is sent to the next unanswered item, which skips the student's previously responded to items. For example, a student answers items 1 through 18 on a 20-item test segment. Prior to pausing, the student deletes item 14. When the assessment resumes, the student would then return to only items 14, 19, and 20. Scratch paper must be collected after each testing session. A student may only use the same scratch paper on the ELA and mathematics performance tasks, CAST, and the California Spanish Assessment or CSA. However, this scratch paper must be held by the test administrator between sessions. An incident involving scratch paper should only be reported when a student retains scratch paper and returns to continue testing within the same assessment, excluding the ELA and mathematics performance tasks, CAST, and the CSA. If a student finished the assessment but did not select Submit, the system will eventually force submission. This does not happen right away. It is important to note that test examiners must not select Submit for a student unless facilitating one of the following assessments: California Alternate Assessment or CAA for ELA, CAA for Mathematics, CAA for Science, Initial ELPAC one-on-one and have finished testing the student, Initial Alternate ELPAC, Summative ELPAC one-on-one and have finished testing the student, Summative Alternate ELPAC. Now we will move on to general test security guidelines involving accessibility resources. Print on demand allows the printing of paper copies of passages, stimuli, and items for students. It is an accommodation for CAASPP that can be used only by students who have it prescribed in their Individualized Education Program or IEP or Section 504 plan. For ELPAC, print on demand is a designated support, and an IEP or Section 504 plan is not required. Test administrators and test examiners are responsible for maintaining the security of printers before, during, and after printing test content. Files must be deleted from a computer immediately after printing the print-on-demand items. It is very important that a file is deleted from the computer in such a way that the file does not remain in the recycle bin to be undeleted. It is never acceptable to assign the task of print-on-demand to student aides. For CAASPP mathematics assessments, if a non-embedded calculator was used during the assessment and the student did not have an IEP or a Section 504 plan that allows it, the coordinator needs to enter a STARS case. A non-embedded calculator is allowed only on mathematics assessments for grades 6 through 8 and grade 11. If the student has an IEP or Section 504 plan that allows it, it can be used only on a segment of the mathematics assessment where a calculator is allowed. The use of a non-embedded calculator is not allowed in mathematics assessments for grades 3 through 5 unless approved as an unlisted resource. Non-embedded calculators are a designated support for science assessments. This means that the student does not have to have an IEP or Section 504 plan to use a non-embedded calculator during a science assessment. A designated support can be assigned on the recommendation of the student's teacher or teachers. Accessibility resources for all students should be checked prior to admitting a student to begin an assessment. Admitting a student into an assessment without properly assigned accessibility resources could result in a stairs case. If you have any questions about test security, please contact your site coordinator for more information. Thank you for watching.